You're tuned in to Upon Further Review with Philip Jordan, a show with compelling conversations on local, SEC, and national sports stories. Connect with Philip on social media at PJordanSEC. Now, the self-proclaimed Wiregrass Podfather, Philip Jordan.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into Upon Further Review. I am Philip Jordan, in-studio host and producer of Pleasant Woods Football on 96.9, The Legend. And we're doing a live special edition of the podcast. And we're doing a Ask Me Anything on the show here today. And what that is, I went to Facebook last week, went to social media, and asked for your questions. Ask me anything sports related, and I'll answer it. And I've done that before on social media, and I've just answered them there. I said, you know what? We'll hold these questions until the podcast. And another thing, we don't have a guest this week. Had some people lined up, some things didn't work out. I said, hey, we'll do an Ask Me Anything. And honestly, I'm thinking about making this a regular segment on the podcast. I have a guest interview and do that. We'll just see. And if you are live, and I'm saying we're live on Tuesday evening on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitter, you see the comments, leave a comment. I will respond to yours at the end of the show. The ones here during the live broadcast, I'll answer them later on. And if I don't get to it, if you check this out on replay next week, I'll put them in there on Ask Me Anything. I got about 7 questions to respond to here on the show. And another thing, of course, again, I am your host, Philip Jordan, in-studio host and producer of Pleasant Woods Football on 96.9 The Legend, and Auburn writer for Last Word on college football. And, of course, you know all the places you can find a podcast if you want to come back later or check out the audio-only version of the show. Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. If you're on Apple Podcasts, please follow, rate, and review. Leave a review. I will read it on a future edition of the show. And if you leave just 4 stars, you're just a straight-up hater. So anyways, let's jump into it. So we'll do a couple of these. We'll take a break, and then we'll jump into some more. And again, we'll check it out with comments. So again, if you want to post a comment on the live stream, they'll come up here, kind of example here. Your question will come up on screen. But again, get to those toward the end. And thanks to anybody right now checking out live. Appreciate you checking out what we're doing here. All right, so let's jump into the questions that were first on social media from last week. We're going to kick things off with Mark Allen, dark horse for the title, basically this year's Michigan. We had a lot of college football related questions here I got last week. To me, I'm just kind of looking over it. Who's that dark horse? And it's kind of harder to pin that down for this upcoming college football season because we're going to the 12-team playoff. With the 14 playoffs, okay, who's a team that might sit between 5 and 8, but you think could jump up and get into the top 4? I honestly, not trying to disagree with you, Mark, but I don't really know if Michigan was a dark horse. I think a lot of people thought Michigan could be that team last year. This year, I don't think Michigan's going to be all that good. I think you're looking at a team that could lose 3 or 4 football games. But this year, going into it, and we kind of have the usual suspects thing out of the SEC, the teams that people are thinking. We'll get into my top 5 on that. We had a question involving that later on in the show. I would say this. I think my biggest dark horse, and it's basically a team I think a lot of people will feel like be a playoff team, but doesn't really see as a national title team. I think it's going to be highly motivated to get there. And that's going to be the Florida State Seminoles. I really look at this team as one that I believe can make a real push and come in and perhaps win a title, because everybody look, they lost Jordan Travis. They lose Trey Benson at running back. They lose Keon Coleman, Johnny Wilson at receiver. They lost some guys on defense too, I know, but they have replenished that talent. DJU's coming in from Oregon State. I think the Mike Norvell offense fits him better, what he's able to do. And I think we will see a much better DJU than we saw when he was at Clemson, him returning to the ACC. You bring in running back Rodell Williams from Alabama, tremendous back, tremendous talent there. We've seen what he can do at Alabama, bring some veteran leadership, and bringing back Lawrence Foley. He's coming back. A lot of yardage, a lot of experience. Then receiver Malik Benson looks like an elite talent at wide receiver. So this team has offensive talent. Now, I do believe it's going to take this team some time to gel offensively, but We're in a 12-team playoff now. You can lose a game or two. You're not out of it. And this team, I believe, is just going to win the ACC. I just don't see another competitor. I don't think Clemson's going to be as good. I don't think they have the players at wide receiver. We'll see what happens with Cade Klubnik. I just don't see that working there for Clemson. And they're probably the number 2 team in the ACC. But I just don't see anybody else being to step up and to be able to challenge Florida State for the ACC. But, yes, I think Florida State's a team that can get a playoff. They'll be a conference champion, so a good chance they're going to have a bye in that first round, get healed up from anything they've got at the end of the season. But, yeah, I have Florida State as my dark horse team that could win a title. Am I predicting Florida State to win the title? No, but if you had to ask me, team just not probably some of the more popular picks right now, a team that's kind of outside the box, I am looking at the Florida State Seminoles. And on defense, too, Patrick Payton's coming back. They've got some playmakers come back on defense. We look at the headliners that are gone. Linebacker has some issues there. I think secondary is good. And then up front, they'll be really good up front. So that's how I am feeling about dark horse team for the national championship prediction there, potential. The next question up, Jake Martin, pick any 3 games of the upcoming season you'd like to see in person, regular season only. So my Twitter handle is going to come into play here where some people may say, man, you are really SEC biased. And I have admitted that I can be at times. I do not apologize for it. I'm looking at some early season matchups. Week 2, Texas at Michigan is interesting. Look, I just said I don't think Michigan's going to be all that good. I'm very high on Texas coming in. I'm a big Sarkisian fan. I like what Quinn Ewers did as a quarterback. I think they went out Isaiah Bond coming in at wide receiver from Alabama. I really like what I'm seeing out of this group at Texas. Michigan, I don't think is going to be that good, but going up to the Big House, it's going to be a hot environment. 11 a.m. on Fox. I know a lot of SEC fans just don't like it, but look, it is what it is. Fox puts their biggest game on at 11. And actually, numbers have shown your 11 o'clock and your 2:30, your mid-afternoon time slots actually draw better TV ratings than primetime does a lot of the times. And I can see that. Saturday night weekend, people are going out doing other things, but during the day, they may be at home watching these games. So it's going to be big for Texas going in that environment. They need to keep some momentum they got going coming into the SEC. I got a couple of week 5 matchups. Like if I could go to any of these games, I'd like to go to these. Oklahoma at Auburn, just because Oklahoma, this will be their first SEC road game. How will they adapt? How will they be able to deal with it? Inexperienced quarterback going into Auburn. And this is an Auburn team that could be 4-0 with a lot of momentum. Auburn plays their first 5 games at home this year. So if Auburn goes in that game 4-0, a lot of excitement will be around the Auburn team, and then it's a big game for Auburn because then if you are 4-0, you beat Oklahoma, you're 5-0. And I do believe with Auburn Tigers, they can win 9 games. I've said that. Peyton Thorne does not have to be Heisman worthy or even SEC Player of the Year worthy. Just be good. Just distribute the football. Be a point guard. They're going to have receivers. I'm super excited for this team. The chances of Cam Coleman really being able to show out, I'm really interested in that. I think defensively they're going to be better. They've addressed their needs, offense line, defense line. Yeah, inexperience in the secondary, but wide receiver, Perry Thompson, Rivaldo Fairweather is going to be a player. I think the running backs are going to be good. So, again, Peyton Thorne, just don't make mistakes. Distribute the football, run Hugh Freeze's offense. I think it'll be good. And so you're looking at that matchup, again, at home. Auburn's the home team there. And, again, Oklahoma's first road SEC team game. It's going to be big. Of course, welcome Texas, Oklahoma, officially official in the SEC right now. All right, so now we're going to jump to some NFL stuff. Kenton Hamilton, if you had to choose one active NFL player to put in the Hall of Fame, now at each the following positions, quarterback, wide receiver, running back, tight end, who would the 4 players be? So looking at it from this, I think quarterback's easy. Look, there's several guys that have the numbers, have the pedigree, have the resume, be Hall of Famers. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers was the New York Jets. But look, the slam dunk is Patrick Mahomes. He's already got 3 rings at still a very young age. And he's only going to, you got to assume he's going to win more titles, right? Will he get to 7 and Tom Brady? That's a lot to ask. You know, we all look at Brady, man, he won 7 titles. He went like a 10-year stretch there where he didn't win a championship. So it's always possible. And I've always said this, I just wonder what the Kansas City Chiefs are going to be when Andy Reid retires? Will that affect this team? I'm interested in that. Brett Favre looked like a guy that was going to win multiple championships with the Green Bay Packers, but then Mike Holmgren leaves. He never gets back to a Super Bowl without Mike Holmgren, which some NFC championship blunders, throwing interceptions too by Favre, also kind of contributed to that part of it. But still, when you lose that coach, how does it impact things? What changes goes into that? So I'm very curious with Patrick Mahomes how he reacts to that. Now I'm going to kind of jump around here on my list because Kenton had wide receiver, running back, tight end. I'm going to say Kansas City Chiefs, Travis Kelce again, resume, what he's doing right now. Kelce could go down as not the best, one of the best tight ends of all time. I think he's already one of the best tight ends of all time. But when it's all said and done, we could be looking at Travis Kelce as the best of all time, notwithstanding his dating choices. But we're not going to get into that. I don't want to get trending for the wrong reasons here by talking bad about who he is dating. All right. Next up all right, let's look at running back. Who is a slam dunk right now, Hall of Fame? It's going to be Derrick Henry, right? I mean, how many running backs in the last 5-10 years do you look at it where teams are fearful, where you really strongly have to plan your defense against a running back? Because let's look at it. College, you still do it. We know in high school, you still have to plan around a top running back. NFL, we see it. It's all about the quarterbacks. It's about the passing quarterbacks, receivers, getting to the quarterback. Secondary, we don't really talk about the running backs a lot. And look, we can get into this conversation another time. Are running backs devalued now? We've seen a lot of conversation about that by running backs in the league right now. Now, another guy I could have thrown in would be Christian McCaffrey just because of what he could do. But I'm going with Derrick Henry. This guy changes the game. And if it's a close game, he gets stronger as the game goes on. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Derrick Henry just because of what he can do. And he's still a good running back. I think he has slowed down a bit. Injuries have been a big part of that. But, yeah, Derrick Henry, if I had to choose one running back right now in the NFL to put into the Hall of Fame, without a doubt, it is Derrick Henry. And wide receiver, Justin Jefferson. He's still young in his career. To me, when healthy, he is the best wide receiver in the league. We'll see how it goes without Kirk Cousins there in Minnesota. I guess more likely this year we're going to see Sam Darnold. They did draft J.J. McCarthy. But Justin Jefferson, there's so many receivers that I could have picked here. There's so many tremendous receivers. But I looked at him. Justin Jefferson, in my opinion, is the best wide receiver in football when he is healthy. The next question, and we're going to take a quick break. Then I'll have about 3 more questions to get to. All right. So, this question may or may not get me in trouble on the internet. I'm going to try to answer this one best I can without it being too political. Barry Williams, and I told him this. I said, "Man, you're trying to get me in trouble." But hey, asked the question. I'm going to answer it. Who wins the golf match, Trump or Biden? Of course, we know last week presidential debate. I didn't really watch it. I seen clips and stuff. I used to actually be somebody that really followed these elections and stuff like that pretty closely. I don't anymore. Just too much negativity, mudslinging on both sides. It's just not my thing anymore. But look, this is sports related. So golf is a sport. They talked about it. I'll just say this. I believe because Donald Trump has more reps as playing golf than Joe Biden. And, of course, we kind of see that Joe Biden has slowed down a bit. He's not as awake as he has been in the past. Trying my best not to get in trouble with my answer on this one. So I'll just say Donald Trump. I'm not 1% sure Joe Biden can get through even 9 holes, especially not 18. I just think endurance, Donald Trump would be able to win that. And that is as much as I'm saying on that topic. I'm going to take a quick 1-minute break, just kind of play a little promo here for some cross promotion among all the different stations at DGO Strategies and all that good stuff. And then when I come back, we got 3 more questions, and then we're going to get out of here. And remember, if you are watching live, you can ask a question. If you're watching this, it is Tuesday evening. We are live on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. Put your question there. I will answer it if you put a question in here while we're live. But be right back here on Upon Further Review.
96.9 The Legend is your connection to classic country legends. But Digio Strategies has other options too. News Talk 103.9 is your source for America's top news and entertainment shows, like Rick and Bubba in the morning, Glenn Beck from 9 till 11 a.m., and Clay Travis and Buck Sexton middays from 11 a.m. till 2 p.m. Sean Hannity, Lars Larson, Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, and others fill your day with the latest news and views from America's top conservative voices. America at Night and Coast to Coast AM keep you company and connected throughout the night. Plus, Fox News, the Alabama Radio Network, and Wiregrass Daily News keep you informed with national, international, state, and local news. And with more musical choices like All the Hits, 106.7 KMX, Today's Country 95.5 WTVY, and Music 107.7. Digio Strategies gives you more choices and more variety. Listen on air, online, and on our apps. 96.9 The Legend is just the beginning.
All right, welcome back into Upon for the review. So let's jump into it with some more questions. Got 3 more to go. Then, unless we get some questions from the live audience, we are going to get out of here for this week. And by the way, I do have some guests lined up for next week. I actually have 2 right now, so we have a big show coming next week here on the show. Anyways, next question is coming up, and we got some good ones here. And actually, one of them is 2. I actually made a deal with the person. He didn't actually post on social media. He texted the question to me, but I made a deal with him on the 2 questions he asked. But anyways, okay, we just did that one. One that probably got me in trouble. If my social medias go disappearing, we know why. Anyways, Rhett Baxley. And Rhett actually sent me a couple of stuff I'm going to save for later editions. Predict the top 5 of this year's SEC standings. Okay. So, and I'm normally kind of guy that will kind of wait until closer to the football season to start predicting who I think is going to do what in the SEC or national, anything like that. But I've really not held back here throughout the all season who I think are the best 2 teams going to season in the SEC. I'm going with Georgia number 1, easy, and Texas. I think Georgia and Texas are going to play more than once. They play in the regular season. They're going to play an SEC championship game. But Ole Miss is number 3. And the thing with Ole Miss, too, they got a lot of players coming back. Of course, Lane Kiffin has done his thing in the portal offensively and defensively. This team is stacked with talent. Jackson Dart, very experienced quarterback, one of the most experienced quarterbacks coming back to college football. But you also got to look at Ole Miss here with their schedule. Their schedule is very, very favorable. And I've got it queued up here. I mean, you open with Furman. You got Middle Tennessee, Wake Forest, Georgia Southern. Look, that should be 4-0. You play Kentucky at 11 at home. I think they're better than Kentucky. I just have a lot of questions about what Kentucky's doing. At South Carolina, that's the team to beat. Now, the next one is going to be tough when you go to Baton Rouge on October 12th, because I think LSU is undervalued as a team. I think offensively they're going to be good again. I think a lot of people look, Jaden Daniels is not going to be there. They're going to struggle. I think Nussmeier quarterback, and LSU always has receivers, always have talent. If that defense is just good, they don't have to be great. If they're just good defensively, this is going to be a really tough team to deal with. So I like LSU as a team, and we'll get to them in my rankings where I think they could place in the SEC. But then looking at the rest of the schedule, Oklahoma, we'll see. Now Oklahoma goes on Miss. At this point, we'll see how acclimated they are to the SEC. At Arkansas, I'm not very optimistic about Arkansas. They do play Georgia. They play Georgia at home. Then you're at Florida, Mississippi State. So looking at the schedule, the only 2 games I see here that are really going to be tough for them is at LSU, and they also host Georgia. There's no Alabama on here. The guy covers Auburn. No Auburn. They do have LSU. Again, of course, we know Mississippi State. So the schedule is not tough for Ole Miss. I mean, this should be a playoff team, and at worst, this should be a 10-2 team going into it. So that is going to be what I think about Ole Miss. Number 4, I got Alabama. There's just so many unknowns with Alabama, right? If this was Nick Saban coming back, we know what to expect. I would probably have Alabama at 3. Not 2, even though with the talent we see on the field, I wouldn't have them that high. I think still Georgia and Texas are the 2 teams for me. But we just don't know. Jalen Milroe, how's the defense going to look? The receivers, who's the playmakers, all that stuff. There's just so many questions around Alabama. So me putting them at 4, that's not me sliding the team. It's just I just don't know. I have questions. That's just my whole thing about Alabama. And again, I just talked about LSU. I think LSU is going to be a really good team. Missouri's there. I think they will take a dip. Missouri, I do not think they're going to be as good as they were last year. I think they'll be good, but just not as good as they were a season ago. So that's kind of how I see. I got Georgia number 1. I got Texas number 2. I got Ole Miss 3, Alabama 4, and LSU is going to be 5 on my list here. All right, let's go into the next one. We got 2 more to get to. JP Wood, this will probably be a quick one. I'll answer. First team you're running in college football 25 dynasty. I'll be honest with you, JP. I don't know how much I'm actually going to play. I don't have a system. I do not have a system to play the game on. So if I play it, it's going to be at somebody else's house. I don't see myself playing dynasty. There's a lot of different teams I might want to try to play with, but yeah, that's probably not going to happen for me because I do not have a system. All right, and then we're going to jump into, of course, this is a guy's been on here plenty of time for now. So you see the first question if you're watching video. You'll hear the question in a second when I read it off for the audio audience. He asked the first question. I said, you can ask one of those questions, but you got to throw in a basketball question also. I was kind of hoping to go college, but we're fine with NBA. All right, so Brandon Eisman, his first question, who has the faster rise to a championship in WWE, Tiffany Stratton or Bron Breakker? So, okay, I don't hide it. I'm a wrestling fan. I like wrestling. I watch Monday Night Raw, and I watch Friday Night SmackDown every single week. That's where my TV's at on those nights. So, let's look at that first question again. Who has the faster rise to a championship in WWE, Tiffany Stratton or Bron Breakker? Well, for the wrestling audience, people out there, of course, Tiffany Stratton will be in the Money in the Bank match this Saturday night. And then, of course, Bron Breakker is going against Sami Zayn for the Intercontinental title. So I think Bron Breakker is probably in line quicker, but I can see Stratton coming up soon. It's a tie for me. I'm not really sure. Just looking at the storylines and how they're going with things, I think Bron Breakker should be the bet right now. But also would not be surprised if they do something interesting with Tiffany Stratton. All right, number 2. What are your realistic expectations for the LeBron-Bronny pairing next season with the Lakers? Of course, look, I will never tell you who my favorite collegiate team, or if I have a favorite collegiate team, would never admit that. But I will admit professional teams, I am a Laker fan. And for everybody that's going to jump on me about that, been a Laker fan over 20 years. I'm 37. I look, I'm older than I actually look. But yeah, big Laker fan, big Kobe, Shaq Lakers. I love those teams. So, I'm not a big fan of it. I know what it is. It's, would anybody else, if his name had been something else than James, if he was not LeBron's son, would he have been drafted? I don't think so. I think he needed another year of college. Really did. I think a lot of the year he's going to spend in the G League. I think from time to time, if the Lakers have a big nationally broadcast game, I think they'll call him up, just especially that moment when we get to see LeBron and Bronny play together on the floor at the same time. That'll be a big deal. The TV networks, whoever's broadcasting it, will make a big deal of that. But I'm just not thinking that we'll see him a lot on the floor. But at the end of the day, we shouldn't really make too big of a deal out of it. Most players that get drafted where he got drafted in the second round don't usually do big things anyways. So. But that's kind of how I feel. I'm really excited for the team with Dalton Connect. I really see that. That's really was, I mean, I know a lot of people have said it, so it sounds cliche, but that really was the steal of the draft. All right, we did have one live question coming in, and I'm hoping we'll do this more. And this segment may not always be a live segment I'll do for the pod, but if we do live and you kind of get people's ideas on what's going on here, you'll probably get more of this. Richard Holders, which I've been on Richard's show a few times, always a fun time. Richard asks, what are you looking forward to for SEC Media Days? That is coming up. It's just, I'm interested in how they're going to rank the conference. Where are they going to put Alabama? Where's the media going to put Alabama in this ranking? I feel like Georgia's going to be the favorite, without a doubt. I feel like Texas and Ole Miss are going to be the two teams that kind of are battling for the number 2 spot, 2 and 3. Will they be like me, put Alabama 4? Just how's that going to look? How are they going to be predicting with Alabama? I'm interested in seeing that. Billy Napier, I think him, Sam Pittman are on the biggest hot seats coming in, how they navigate certain questions. Will be very interesting. How we're going to hear coaches talk about NIL. It's going to be very interesting as it was last year. What will Lane Kiffin talk about? Lane Kiffin's going to throw some comments out there and stuff like that. So it's what the coaches talk about. Portal, the playoff stuff. There's just so many big picture topics right now in college football. We should see some pretty cool stuff. What's going on with that? So that's going to do it. Look, that was 7-8 questions. I was kind of curious if I would go 20-15 with those, and we went 26 minutes. So appreciate everybody who threw that in there. Thank you. And I will probably make this more of a regular thing on the pod, at least make it as a final segment or something after a guest interview. Do some Ask Me Anything questions. Depending on guest interviews, how long they go, may not do as all of them in one show. I can always do a companion video getting the other questions later on. But yeah, once again, everybody, really appreciate the questions, and we'll try to do this more often. All right, I'm going to get out of here. Again, hope everyone has a great 4th of July. Have fun. Be safe with fireworks. That's number one. Be safe. Saturday night, the Dusty United Dragons, they will be in action again, trying to get into the postseason. They're coming off a 1-1 tie against the Birmingham Legion, a game that didn't start, I don't think, to 9:30. So, and we may have some Dothan Dragons related content on the show. Next week, I have one of the best radio voices in college football also coming on the show next week. So a lot of fun, and we may do this. Ask Me Anything. But remember, you follow me on social media at PJordanSEC. The podcast is available Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You're on Apple Podcasts. Please follow, rate, and review. Leave a review. I will read it on a future edition of the show. And if you leave those 4 stars, you are just a straight-up hater. You can email me over at sportstalkphilipjordan@gmail.com. Check out all my written work over the Last Word on college football. Once again, I hope everybody has a fantastic 4th of July. I'm sure a lot of people are going to have a long weekend, but I'll be back next week. Remember, the Wiregrass High School Football Report is back, too. Before I get out here, remind you of that. I had Matt Malone, the new head coach of Carroll High, on the show this past Monday, and we will have more high school football content on that show on Mondays, and then this show is coming to you on Wednesdays. But anyways, I hope everybody has a great week, great weekend. Stay cool. It's hot out there. But until next time, bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Upon Further Review with Philip Jordan. Listen to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Watch the show on the Philip Jordan Sports Facebook and YouTube pages, or the Wiregrass Daily News Facebook page. Got a guest idea? Email Philip at sportstalkphilipjordan@gmail.com. Join us next time for Upon Further Review.